we're good. We're good. You guys are good.
We're recording?
We're recording.
All right, I'm team leader, I'm Blair.
I'm Katie.
I'm Eric.
I'm Pierce.
I'm Savannah.
I'm Christian.
And we are the Boeing company team. To begin the presentation, I'd like to go and focus on a few key points that we will be covering throughout this exciting presentation. First off, we have a quick overview of Boeing and its principal business segments. Also, we have our key issues, our main issue of vertical integration, a brief analysis, and a recommendation. To begin with, of Boeing's 5 principal business segments, commercial airplanes is its most important. In 2012, the commercial airplane segment was responsible for nearly $49 billion of revenue. That's roughly 60% of their entire 2012 revenue. Of their 171,000 employees worldwide, 85,000 of them are dedicated just to commercial airplanes. Also, roughly 70% of the entire commercial airplane sales are kind of outside the United States. Boeing's commercial airline production line has recently added the new, more fuel-efficient 737 MAX and the 787 Dreamliner. Also in 2012, Boeing had a total of 477 commercial airplanes delivered. Here are a couple examples of Boeing airplanes that are in production. The 737, also the 737 MAX, which has proven to be about 12% more fuel efficient than other 737s. Also, the really big one we want to highlight is the 787 Dreamliner. The reason this is so revolutionary is because it's one of the first major aircrafts to be produced through composite materials, being the primary material in the airframe construction. Also, it's going to be about roughly 20% more fuel efficient than other 787 models. Now we have Christian here to take away a few of our key issues.
All right, so key issues. Reliance on U.S. contracts. So I said on Tuesday how how those contracts are always subject to termination. And aside from that causing the company to be in a state of confusion or uncertainty, it can also cost the company a lot of money. So like they spend a lot of money to get those specific parts for the project, and when the project is terminated, those parts just basically have no use. Competition, Boeing even stated in their annual report that companies overseas may have more extensive engineering, marketing, and manufacturing capabilities than they do, specifically Airbus. So that's something they definitely have to keep an eye on, because if they fall behind or something, they could steal a whole bunch of market share from them. The 787 Dreamliner, you guys know about like the specific issues they have from a safety standpoint, and a report actually just came out yesterday that the problem actually has to do with the battery being wired incorrectly. So they'll present that fix to the FAA, and if it passes, then they'll start flight testing. And if everything goes well, they could have the airplane back in the air in maybe as early as next month. And the main issue that we're focusing on is the heavy reliance on suppliers and producers, which Blair will go more in depth about.
All right, so our main issue is that we're heavily reliant on suppliers and subcontractors. This is a main issue for Boeing because if you've ever flown in an airplane, Boeing doesn't actually manufacture the majority of parts that go into an assembly of an airplane. For instance, like the interiors, the carpeting, the mats and curtains, even aviation components, cockpit, instruments, navigation and guidance systems, the electrical things like brakes, wheels, motors, switches, valves, and tanks. They actually don't manufacture that, they buy them from an outside supplier. So if our outside supplier or subcontractor has a problem with the production, that can cause delays in our delivery, which would be a problem because we would be unable to fulfill production orders on time, which would also increase our operating costs. Also, we are heavily reliant on raw materials, and such as aluminum and titanium. And if those become unavailable and we aren't able to obtain them in a timely fashion, that causes a problem for Boeing because, once again, we cannot fulfill our production order to our customers. And here is Eric with our research and analysis on why our problem is so huge.
So through our research, we've discovered that Boeing basically uses fixed price contracts. So essentially, when a commercial airliner places their order for an airplane, they have that set price. It's locked in for that price. And as we discussed on Tuesday, we have a very large backlog order. So that means these planes necessarily won't go into production or basically till 5 years down the road. So those raw materials that we're using 5 years later may be a lot more expensive than Boeing initially thought they would be, 5 years prior when they actually placed the order. So what we're basically saying is that we want to see Boeing vertically integrate the entire company, specifically our suppliers. So that way we disintermediate a lot of our supplies, so that way we get cheaper raw materials. And then also in terms of the battery problem with the 787 Dreamliner, that battery was produced in Japan, and if Boeing decides to start producing these products, we would be able to solve the issue much more quickly if this is one of our specific products. Next we have Katie to talk about our recommendation.
Okay, so in 2011, as we all know, we reached record revenues of $68.7 billion. However, we did have a backlog of 3,771 commercial airplanes. This is a huge issue because it can put us behind with all our other customers. And so we are planning on fixing our backlog by becoming vertically integrated. We can do this because of our high revenue, we have a lot of cash on hand. So we are going to try to buy out our suppliers and our high demand parts as well as our raw materials. We hope that this will help improve and perfect efficiency as well as production rates. And decrease transportation and hopefully reduce transportation expenses. We just know that our backlog is such a huge issue and it really can put us behind of our major competitors.
Okay, to conclude, we've reviewed our main segments, gone over our key issues, identified our problems, and come up with a recommendation to work on a solution. And if you have any questions? All right, so
Okay, my question is, your backlog is 307 something? Do you know if it's all due to what it's from exactly? And this is kind of a two-part question, and then, well, I guess I'll just leave it at that. So is it all because of this, problems with equipment or getting equipment?
We actually we got a bunch of new production orders in the past year. 2011 was skyrocketed for new airplanes and commercial airline. It was the highest that we've ever gotten. So that increased our production order and increased our backlog. So the majority of them are commercial airlines, but if you want to.
Okay, so mainly the airplanes that we were talking about that are on backlog mainly is our 777 and also our 737 MAX. And then our issues with the Dreamliner is also a lot of the materials that are on backlog as well. So yeah, it's mostly the commercial airplanes, and with our suppliers, our issues with the suppliers, them not coming at the right price that we want to meet, or just not meeting it on time. And so that's just causing us a lot of issues. An example is we only produced 477 commercial airplanes just in 2011 alone. However, we have a backlog of 3,771. So you can tell it's going to take more than 6 years to produce our backlog alone. So that's our main issue, as well as we do have a lot of our employees who have recently retired. So we also have to train. We have to also concentrate within our own facilities as well. So it's a mixture between both.
This might be kind of a simple suggestion, but has Boeing considered opening more facilities to speed up the manufacturing? You mentioned in South Carolina you opened it, but what about others?
Well, we haven't, what we've researched so far, they haven't decided to open up more production facilities. I can imagine that Boeing should be working on something like that as of right now because of the backlogs, and if they were to vertically integrate their commercial airline segment, they would need to open up more production facilities in order to reduce the whole transportation costs and transportation problems that we are facing from suppliers. So hopefully.
And I know that we are really trying to work on our proficiency in the South Carolina segment, and also just our production rates increasing. But I think we still obviously by the numbers need some more solutions. So.
other questions?
Any questions about the feasibility of vertically integrating a company?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, it seems like there's a lot of pretty significant risk in entering a bunch of different markets or industries that Boeing's never operated in, like mining or parts supplies or anything like that. What's your plan to mitigate the risk of entering all these industries that you've never been in before?
Lucky enough, because of the amount of employees and the years and years of experience that Boeing's had with these different international and national partners, I think that if they were able to accumulate the right amount of people that were more experienced in those fields, they'd be able to lessen the risk.
Okay. Good job, guys. Before you sit